Steve?
Carlos, in this day and age, what is the level of accomplishment of a complete game shutout?
Huge. You don't see this too often, especially with pitch counts and, it's max effort, seems like pretty much everyone that takes the baseball. And seeing a performance like that nowadays is, is something that we don't take for granted, You just have to enjoy it as the game progresses and you look at the pitch count and the way they are approaching him and how aggressive they are, you feel like, this might be it right here. I'm glad he was able to do it, proud of him.
In that eighth inning, what did you see in that moment where you could have gone either way that said, I'm giving him the ninth?
Yeah, so obviously we make some big-time plays. That throw to home plate from Tyrone Taylor, Louis applying the tag there, kind of give him a little bit of breathing room there. And then once he got through there, he finished it with 96. So I knew I was getting there as far as pitch count. I was talking to Hef and Desi in the dugout, like how far can we go with him? I knew he came in the dugout and he didn't want to give me a look, So that for me is a sign that he wants to go back out. Getting to know Petey now for almost a year now. He's a competitor, And when a pitcher comes back to the dugout and he doesn't want you to even look at him, so I called him down in the tunnel and I said, man, this is a tough one. It's like, let me finish it. Let me finish it. It's like, you only got a few pitches here. It's like, let me finish it. I said, all right, it's yours. So, obviously we had Stanek ready to go, but he gets to 2-0 on Rosario, but then comes back and he's able to get him out. And then the way he attacked Wood there, I was like, well, the game's over here. So, like I said, outstanding performance. Him and Louis, obviously, on the same page. I thought we played some really good defense behind him. He kept getting ground balls, and we make some good plays. And, it's good to see it.
Just one more quickly, just given that you had that conversation with him down in the hallway, on the field, after he was high-fiving everybody, you two shared a pretty big embrace. Just what did that moment mean for the two of you?
Yeah, it means a lot, And, as a manager, you want to give your players a chance, every time you have that opportunity, right? And he just thanked me there, It means a lot, He gave me a hug and he said, thank you, Skipper, That means a lot to me, And obviously to all of us. I think the whole team was pulling for him, the whole dugout. They were staring at me in that eighth inning, They were wondering what was the conversation like with Hef. I had like 3 players staring at me, kind of like, don't do it. Like they all wanted it for him. So, pretty special day.
Manny? Andrew?
Me? Go ahead, Andrew. It looked like you got Brazban up there in the 7th after the 2 back-to-back singles. What did it mean for him just to get through that pressure there in the 7th?
Yeah, and he was like a high mid-70s at the time, So I was going to be aggressive. We were up 4th, but after the first 2 guys got on, I wasn't going to let it, slip away, So I got Brazoban, but then again, that's Peterson, a guy that a couple of guys gets on. There's no panic. There's the feel for the moment where he's always a pitch away from getting a ground ball, getting 2 outs, and he was able to get out of that 7th, And then in the 8th, same way. A couple of guys get on, 1 out, double, then the single, but that play at the plate, like I said. So, that's like David Peterson right there, man. Like a guy that, wants the baseball. He's a competitor, and he went out there and did it.
Tony?
Just in general, what made him so effective tonight in your eyes?
Yeah, the way he used all of his pitches, I thought he's just unpredictable. He's not afraid to double up on changeups. He's not afraid to double up on sinkers, the slider, the curveball, like just the feel for pitching. And that's what I say. Louis being on the same page there, using all of their pitches, keep them off balance, getting ground balls. And that's what makes him who he is.
And just how much did what he's accomplished over the first couple months of this season play into that trust you had in letting him go out there for the ninth?
Yeah, I trust him, and because he's this is a guy that I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot with him. Like he's never going to want to come out of the game. But I know, obviously the pitches, how he's throwing the ball. There's a lot of things that I take into consideration. Obviously, talking to have to. But I feel like, the level of trust from, both ends, I trust him. He trusts our decisions. And that's, as a manager, that's what you want with your players overall.
Laura.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about his fearlessness. Is there anything you learned from him last year when both he's coming back from hip surgery, but also being able to use him like you did in the bullpen during the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, again, they compete, how much he wants it, his ability to come through in big moments. I mean, I can sit here and say a lot of different things about him, but he's just a guy that the situation is never too big for him. And we saw it last year. He was able to go to the bullpen in the playoff. And here he is now, getting the baseball every 5-6 days and giving us a chance to win baseball games.
Will.
Hey, Carlos, you mentioned the talking to Desi and Hef a little bit during late innings. What was the feedback they were giving you when you were asking them about?
It was just more like pitch counts, how they feel about it. Like obviously we knew he's getting an extra day of rest, and how comfortable they were and like how far I was going to be able to go with them, But they were right there with me, So, when you have that support system in the dugout, it's important as a manager too, And because, I'm the one making the final call, but using the coaches, in this case, my pitching coach is there. That's what they're there for, and I'm glad I have him with me.
There were a lot of times last year where he would want he would want to stay in games. You'd go out there, and he'd be visibly upset as well when you take him out. When did those things start to change as far as just like, I don't know if trust is the right word, but just the ability to allow him to stay in those types of situations? And,
that's what I keep telling them since day one spring training. Like, every time I go out there and I take the ball, I don't want you to be happy. I want you to be pissed, with respect, like, I'm not going to disrespect you guys. I expect the same thing, but it felt like every time I went out there, and there were times I was aggressive taking the ball away from him, whether the bullpen was rested. There's different situations here, but every time I took the ball away from him, he wasn't happy. But we always had that conversation the next day, so he knew where I was coming from. So we created that relationship. So now he knows where I'm coming from with my decision, the reasons behind them. But I also know and understand that how important it is for him to go deep in games, and saving the bullpen and things like that. He takes pride on that. So, again, over a year now together, and I feel like we're in a good spot.
Ron.
Aside from on the mound, since you came here in the fall of 2023 and you've been with him, what have you learned about him as a person?
Great teammate. He cares about his team, cares about winning. Beautiful family, and obviously he's a guy that competes, man. Like, he doesn't want to come out of the game. And as a position player, if you're not in the lineup, you should be pissed. If you, as a pitcher, if I'm taking the ball away from you, you should be pissed. And there's the respect factor, obviously. But what I learned from him is he wants to be out there. He wants the ball in the biggest moment, and that's what makes him who he is.
What does his personality contribute among the starting pitchers?
Oh, he adds to the different mix that we got there. We got guys like Sean Manaea, who's a sneaky leader, Clay Holmes, with the super smart. He just add a combination of both. A guy that's got a good feel for the moment, good feel for the game, instincts, and it's a good mix that we got there.
David.
Carlos, as special as this night was with Peterson, does anything that the rotation does surprise you anymore? Do they have these? Not this particular performance, but do they have the potential to just keep?
Yeah,
doing kind of special things for you guys.
Yeah, we felt good from the beginning. We kept talking about our depth, and we got tested with Manaea and Montas. And I know outside of this building there was a lot of questions, but we always felt good about it, And here they are, continue to take the baseball. And there's going to be, ups and downs, and that's part of it. We'll continue to work with them. But man, they've been huge and solid for us. They continue to give us a chance. And again, every time someone takes the baseball, you feel good about your chances that day.
Abby.
When you got here in November of 2023, Peterson was coming off of a bad season, and then he had surgery. Is this something that you could have expected from him, and just what were you hearing about him from the organization when you came here, knowing that he was hurt, and just what you thought he'd be able to accomplish?
Honestly, I always liked him. When I was on the other side, I felt like we faced him a lot, and he always had success. And I always, in the dugout watching him, it's like, man, this is a pretty good lefty here. So even though he was coming off a surgery or struggles, the few times I saw him, he was pretty good. I remember hitters coming back to the dugout, like having a hard time picking his baseball. There's some deception there. He's a tough lefty. So I knew coming in that we had something there.
In some ways, is this also maybe a win for player development, given that he is a homegrown starter?
100%. You got to give credit to player development. Not only the player development, but not only coaches, analytics, but the trainers, the performance science, the people that were a huge part of his rehab process. There's a lot of people that got their hands here, so they should be proud of him, not only for what he did today, but what he continued to do since he got back on the mound last year.
Manny?
On another topic, just how difficult is it for a player like Tyrone Taylor to come in there cold as a defensive replacement and make that kind of play in the 8th inning?
Not difficult at all because he knows his role. He knows that's if he's not in the lineup, and I keep saying I got 13 position players that the fact that they're not in the lineup, they could be coming in and get the biggest at bat of the game or make the biggest play of the game. In this case, we're up 5. He knows he's got to get ready, and he comes in and right away he's ready to go. Not easy, not easy coming cold, but he goes in there, gets loose. Gibby gave him a heads up an inning prior, and he was ready to go. And opportunity presented, and threw a strike to home play, and big reason why Peterson was able to finish that game there.
And also just Brandon Nimmo's night. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, impressive, and as the weather continues to warm up here, we're going to start seeing those balls go out. I thought that the one he pulled, I think it was 106, that didn't get out. And then he hit 2 of 101, 103. So he continues to give us good at bat, driving the ball to all fields, and that's the hitter we know he's capable of being.
Thank you, Carlos.